All right, so get ready because we're diving into Chapter 19 of Frankenstein.
Ooh, a travel journal.
Right, but it's like a travel journal narrated by, well, a man who's carrying a pretty monstrous secret.
Yeah, talk about baggage.
No kidding. So we're going to trace Victor Frankenstein's journey, not just through Britain, but also his psychological journey.
His harrowing psychological descent.
Exactly. And it all starts in London, right?
Hmm.
This bustling hub of science and advancement.
You think that'd be perfect for Victor?
Right. But something's off.
Oh, yeah, big time. And Shelley does this amazing thing where she contrasts Victor with Henry Clerval, his friend.
Because Henry's loving London.
He's thriving on it, all that intellectual energy, he's soaking it up. But Victor sees it all through this lens of despair.
It's like he's there, but not really there.
Exactly. Remember how he talks about everyone around him? Busy, uninteresting, joyous faces. He's just surrounded by joy, and it makes him miserable.
Oh, it's like he's allergic to happiness.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the only time he finds peace is when he's alone or with Henry.
Which makes the whole thing even more heartbreaking because Henry's totally oblivious.
Oblivious to the darkness that Victor's carrying.
Like Victor's trying to shield Henry from this danger that Henry has no clue even exists.
And then on top of that, you've got this irony with Henry being so fascinated by India.
Right, talking about expanding European influence and all that.
Yeah.
When Victor's created this monster that could, well,
Undo everything.
Exactly. So it's like these two parallel paths, both wanting to create fit in such different ways.
One's outward, focused on exploration, and the other is so inward, so dark and consumed by this internal struggle.
So they set off, right, this journey north, London to Windsor, then Oxford, Matlock, the Lakes, and finally Scotland.
It's like a map of Victor's crumbling mind.
Because each place they stop, especially the ones connected to King Charles I, seem to weigh heavily on Victor.
Shelley's so deliberate with those locations.
Is it because Charles I, like Victor, made choices that led to his downfall?
Bingo. Both driven by ambition, both consumed by the consequences.
Pretty chilling, right? Definitely. And as they're traveling, Victor has these moments, like these glimpses of peace. The forests of Windsor, the lovely Isis at Oxford, the Swiss-like scenery of Matlock, the Lake District.
Nature, right. Classic romantic idea that nature can heal you.
But for Victor, it's fleeting.
Oh yeah, temporary escape.
Because even surrounded by beauty, he's still got this detestable occupation hanging over his head. And that fear of the creature coming back.
Which just gets worse when they reach Edinburgh.
Like it's foreshadowing his decision to isolate himself even further.
Which leads him to the Orkneys, this desolate island about as far from the beauty of his Swiss homeland as he can get.
And it's so stark, this juxtaposition between those two landscapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idyllic Switzerland, his innocent past, and then the harsh reality of the Orkneys.
A reflection of the task ahead of him, for sure.
The monstrous task.
Exactly. He's not just geographically isolated, he's psychologically exiled, taking refuge in a place as bleak and unforgiving as what he has to do, creating another being.
Defying nature itself.
And it's almost like he's trying to punish himself before he even starts. It's not just isolation, though, is it? It's almost like he chose this place, the Orkneys, because it's harsh.
Bleak?
Yeah, bleak, almost monstrous.
You think it's connected to what he's about to do? Create another creature?
I think so. Like he's mirroring that act of defiance against nature. And remember how he describes it? The island?
Hardly more than a rock.
Exactly. With barren soil and those miserable huts.
It's like he's surrounding himself with suffering, maybe to punish himself.
Maybe. Remember his descriptions of the people who live there. 5 persons whose gaunt and scraggy limbs gave tokens of their miserable fare.
It's such a different picture from those lush Swiss landscapes he talked about before.
Right. This isn't a peaceful retreat. He's fixing up this rundown hut, barely talking to anyone, just totally consumed by his work.
His detestable occupation.
But even there, in that desolation, he finds those moments with nature. Walking along the beach, listening to the waves.
But it's a different kind of nature experience than what he described in Switzerland, isn't it?
Totally. This is a giant ocean. He even compares its roar to, well, not a gentle sound.
Not like the play of a lively infant he compared the Swiss lakes to.
No, not at all. And that's what's so interesting about Victor. He's drawn to nature's beauty, but also to its power.
And that darkness.
Yeah, that darkness. And that's reflected in his work, creating the creature. He even calls it filthy and admits his heart often sickened at what he was doing.
He's repulsed by it, but he can't stop.
It's like he's both the monster and the creator, all wrapped up in one.
And driven by that promise he made to the creature.
Right. He's terrified of what will happen if he doesn't follow through.
Terrified that demon's disappointment.
Exactly. And terrified of what the creature will do to his loved ones if he doesn't get his way.
It's a horrible position to be in.
It is. Driven by this desire to protect everyone, but also knowing he might be putting them in even more danger by creating a second creature.
So the fear and guilt just keep building.
Absolutely. And it's wearing him down. He talks about feeling restless and nervous, always on edge, expecting the creature to show up at any moment.
It's like he's a completely different person from the Victor we met at the beginning of the story.
The Victor we see now in chapter 19 is broken, burdened by guilt and fear. He's on this physical journey through Britain, but also on this descent into psychological torment.
And it feels like he's accelerating towards some kind of breaking point as he gets closer to finishing his work.
Right. He describes looking towards its completion with a tremulous and eager hope, but there's also this dread.
Like he knows this creation could unleash something truly horrific.
And that's where Shelley's genius really comes through. She weaves together Victor's physical journey with his internal struggles so expertly.
Forcing us to confront not just the monster he's creating, but maybe also the monster within all of us.
Maybe.
So as Victor isolates himself further on that desolate island, the big question becomes, can anything good come from this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And one that's going to stay with us as we continue to follow Victor's story.
I mean, it's almost like Shelley's asking us, are there places so desolate, so removed from the world that they become breeding grounds for monstrous acts?
It's like the landscape itself becomes another character.
Right. But the thing is, Victor chose this isolation. Remember, he started in London, surrounded by people, possibility, and he already felt totally alone.
And that's the real tragedy of Victor, isn't it? He's looking for external solutions to these internal struggles.
Yeah.
Thinks if he can just get far enough away, finish this one task.
Then everything will be okay.
Right, like he can outrun his demons.
But he takes them with him wherever he goes.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that question. Can any good come from this?
I mean, given his state of mind, this desolate environment he's chosen.
Is he creating a monster or something redemptive?
It's a scary thought to even consider. We've seen Victor's hope and ambition turn into fear and despair. He's a prisoner of his own creation.
Haunted by the very thing he brought to life.
And I think that's what really sticks with you after reading this, right? The idea that what we create, whether it's something physical or something, more metaphorical, can change us.
It can define us.
So what do we do with that knowledge? What's Shelley trying to tell us?
I think she's urging us to be careful what we create, both in the world and within ourselves. Think about the consequences of our actions, and understand that we are connected to our creations. They can shape us for better or worse.
That's a powerful message. Thanks for joining us as we dove into the mind of Victor Frankenstein. We followed his journey through Britain, but even more so his psychological journey.
That descent into darkness.
As he races toward this finish line, that seems to promise more turmoil than peace.
Remember those landscapes we inhabit, both physical and mental? They impact us. Choose them wisely.
Until next time, keep exploring.